You're born in medieval England, sometime around 1350, give or take a plague or two. Your parents, peasants. Your whole life is essentially mapped out before you're old enough to have thoughts about it. Work the land, stay poor, stay hungry, die exhausted in a small dark house. That's the plan. But here's the thing. You're genuinely terrible at farming. Too slow, too clumsy, completely unmotivated by the state of the harvest. So your options narrow fast. Begging is technically available. Stealing is technically available. But if you want something resembling legitimate work, something that earns actual coin, there's one job in the city that always needs people. Night watchman. The city needs them desperately. Nobody actually wants to be one. And yet, here you are. Sounds like a real opportunity, right? An honest living, a sense of purpose, wrong. Here's how it starts. You're maybe 16 years old, maybe 17. Some older man around town, smells like he's been outside his whole life, tells you the watch is hiring. He says it like he's genuinely doing you a favor. Says there's food, a place to sleep, a bit of coin at the end of the week. You think, okay, this could work. You sign up. Nobody warns you what you're actually signing up for. The watch always needs bodies because people keep leaving. You'll figure that out on your own. Usually around hour 3 of your first shift when you're standing in freezing darkness, genuinely questioning every decision you've ever made. Every single one brought you here. Your training is not exactly extensive. One of the senior watchmen points at a wooden club and tells you not to lose it. He hands you a lantern. He shows you your patrol route on a rough map you can barely read in the dim light. And that's it. That's the entire training process. No practice fights. No guidance on what to do when things go wrong. No handbook. Just you, a stick, a lantern, and the complete darkness of a medieval city full of thousands of people who are now technically your responsibility. The senior watchman walks away without looking back. You stand there holding your club, thinking, is there more? There isn't. You figure the rest out by surviving it, which is a teaching method, just not a good one. Your shift starts at sundown, and guess what? In an English winter, sundown hits around 4 in the afternoon. So you're lacing up your boots and grabbing your lantern while the rest of the city is heading indoors, lighting fires, sitting down to eat. Everyone else's day is ending. Yours is starting, and it doesn't end until sunrise. That's 10, 11, sometimes 12 hours of walking in complete darkness, every single night. No weekends, no rest days unless you're sick. And even then, someone has to cover for you, and you owe them. You walk the same route over and over, the same streets, the same alleys, the same corners where nothing is happening, and then sometimes something is happening and you wish it wasn't. 10 hours every night. Let that number sit with you for just a moment. Now let's talk equipment, because this is where it gets almost funny. There's no uniform, no armor, no official kit beyond what the city already handed you. Maybe a rough wool cloak, maybe a leather jerkin that does essentially nothing against January wind. You're not a soldier. The city isn't spending money on real equipment for night watchmen. You get a club, which is a stick. You get a lantern, which is a small fire in a box. You get the vague legal authority to tell people to go home after curfew. That's your entire arsenal. No sword, no shield, no backup. And on a night when frost is forming on the cobblestones and the wind is cutting through every gap in your clothing, you would genuinely trade all of it for a decent pair of wool gloves. The cold is a problem nobody adequately prepares you for. Not uncomfortable cold, not chilly cold, bone deep, can't feel your toes, hands shaking too hard to hold the lantern properly cold. Medieval streets have no heating, no outdoor fires on every corner, no warm stalls, no steaming drinks available at midnight. You walk your route and you endure it, hour after hour. The kind of cold that makes your face feel like it belongs to someone else. The kind that makes you seriously question every choice that led you here. And remember, you're not doing this for good money. You're doing this for barely enough coin to eat. You're suffering this specific flavor of misery for survival wages, and you still have 7 more hours left in your shift. The darkness is its own separate nightmare. Your lantern throws maybe 6 feet of light. 6 feet. That's it. Beyond that circle, absolute black. Medieval cities have no public lighting, no torches lining the streets, no oil lamps mounted on walls, nothing, just dark. And someone could be standing 2 steps outside your lantern light right now, watching you walk, and you'd have no idea until you heard them move. Every alley is completely invisible. Every doorway is pure shadow. Every sound that isn't your own footsteps is a potential problem you can't see yet. Your ears become your primary tool because your eyes are essentially useless past arm's length. You walk slower than you'd like. You listen to everything. Wind, distant footsteps, voices, the specific sound of something that shouldn't be moving. You get very good at listening fast. You have to. And what are you listening for most urgently? Fire. That's always the answer. Fire is the nightmare of every medieval city. Wooden buildings packed tightly together. No fire brigade, no water pressure, no organized response. One unattended candle, one ember rolling off a hearth, and an entire street is gone before dawn. Your most critical job isn't catching thieves. It's smelling smoke before 6 buildings turn into 12, and 12 turn into the whole district. If a fire starts on your watch and you miss it while standing 20 feet away, people die. Whole families, whole blocks, and guess who gets blamed? You, the watchman, the one who was supposedly watching. So you walk and you smell the air constantly like an anxious dog, and you scan every roofline for smoke that doesn't belong. Every single night, without fail. When you spot smoke, you move fast. You shout. You ring any bell you can find. You hammer on doors with your club until the whole street is awake and stumbling outside in their nightclothes. This is the one moment where your job actually feels like it matters, where the sleepless nights and the cold and the terrible pay add up to something real. You lead people out. You direct the bucket chains. You stay until the fire is out or the building is lost. And then, exhausted, smelling like smoke, you go back to walking your route. Because the shift isn't over. The fire took an hour. You've still got 6 hours left. And tomorrow night you'll do it again. And the night after. And every night until your body decides it's done, which will happen sooner than you think. Then there's the crime side of things. Because people do commit crimes at night, and stopping them is technically your job. Here's the issue. You're one person, one tired, cold, poorly equipped person against an entire city worth of bad decisions happening in the dark. Thieves work at night by design. They know the alleys better than you do. They move faster because they're not carrying a lantern announcing exactly where they are. You have your club and your authority, and that's about it. No backup, nobody to call. If you corner someone and they decide they're not coming quietly, it's just you and them and whatever happens next. Most experienced night watchmen learn quickly that there's a difference between catching a thief and actually catching a thief. One is dramatically easier than the other. The curfew enforcement is your most consistent daily headache. After a certain hour, nobody's supposed to be outside. That's the rule. You find someone wandering at midnight, you stop them. You ask their business. If their answer isn't satisfactory, you detain them. Simple in theory, completely miserable in practice, because almost nobody respects the authority of the night watchman, drunk people especially. You stop a man stumbling out of a tavern at midnight, and he argues with you for 15 minutes about whether you have real power over him. You drag him to the guardhouse anyway. He insults you the whole way. By the end of the week, you've heard every possible variation of that interaction. Different man, same argument, same insults, same guardhouse. You go home, sleep for 5 hours, and do it again. Drunks are honestly the defining feature of this job. Medieval taverns stay open late. The ale is cheap and strong, and it hits everyone the same way. When the tavern doors finally close, all of that chaos pours directly into your streets. Men fighting each other over nothing, men sleeping in doorways in dangerous cold, men knocking over market stalls and causing damage that the stall holders will blame on you in the morning. You spend a significant part of every single shift managing people who can barely stand upright, and not one of them thanks you for it. You haul some merchant's drunk son safely home through dark streets, and the father opens the door, looks at you, and looks straight past you. You protected his family. He's already closing the door. That's the job. That's always the job. Your pay exists in the same way that morning mist exists. Technically real, barely substantial. Night watchmen earn almost nothing. Enough to eat? Barely. Enough to rent a corner of somewhere to sleep during the day. You're not building anything. You're not saving toward any future. There's no version of this job that comes with more money or more comfort or more respect. You walk patrols until your body won't let you walk patrols anymore, and then someone younger takes your route. That's the entire career arc. No promotions, no raises, no recognition. The city needs you out there every single night and compensates you at exactly the level that keeps you too desperate to quit. It's a very efficient system, honestly. Efficient for everyone except you, standing in the dark with your little lantern, who is the one part of the system that doesn't benefit from it. And the social status. Let's actually address that. Night watchmen sit near the very bottom of the respectable work hierarchy. Above begging, maybe. Below, almost everything else. Merchants don't acknowledge you. Nobles look through you like you're part of the wall. The craftsman might know your name, but wouldn't sit next to you at a good table. You're useful the way a chamber pot is useful. Everyone's glad it exists. Nobody wants to talk about it. When you're off duty and trying to sleep during the day, your neighbors are noisy and completely unsympathetic. When you mention you're tired, people shrug. You chose this, they say, as though choice really entered into it in any meaningful way. As though you carefully weighed your options and thought, yes, cold nights and no respect and survival wages, that's the life for me. Winter is a whole other category of suffering. Medieval winters are serious. Not modern discomfort winters, real cold. Snow that freezes overnight into solid ice on cobblestones, already worn smooth from decades of foot traffic. Nobody is clearing paths for you. Nobody is putting down sand or grit on the streets you need to walk every night. You slip on black ice, go down hard, your lantern hits the ground and goes out. Now you're lying in total darkness with a possibly twisted ankle trying to relight your flame against the wind. And you still have 6 hours left in your shift. You get up. You limp. You relight the lantern on the 4th try. You keep going. Because if you don't finish the route and a fire starts in the block you skipped, people die. So you walk. Illness is inevitable and it arrives fast. You're outside every single night in rain, frost, sleet, the wet fog that sits over English streets in autumn like it owns them. Your clothes never fully dry between shifts. Your boots stay damp. You sleep in a cold guardhouse during the day and go back out into the cold at night, an endless loop of exposure with nowhere to recover. Medieval medicine is not going to help much. If you develop a bad chest infection, someone might offer you a remedy that involves more prayer than actual treatment. The persistent cough arrives first. Then, the rattling sound when you breathe, that becomes your signature. Watchmen who stay long enough sound like distant storms by their late 20s. You learn to ignore it because you don't have a choice, and nobody else is going to make one for you. The other watchmen become the only people who truly understand this life. You share food on bad weeks. You cover roots when someone's knees give out. You sit together in guardhouse doorways at 3 a.m. without saying much because you don't need to. There's a specific bond in shared suffering that doesn't require explanation. These people know exactly what your nights look like. They know the cold and the dark and the drunks and the curfew arguments and the way your feet feel after 11 hours on cobblestones. None of them are exactly thriving. But together in the small hours before dawn, with the city quiet and your lanterns burning low, there's something almost like belonging. Not comfort, more like mutual survival. And in medieval England, for people like you, that's about as good as it honestly gets. And so the years pass, night after night, season after season, your body slowly accounting for everything. Your knees start aching by 30. Your eyes strain from years of squinting through darkness. Your back develops strong opinions about cobblestones and cold and the permanent damp of English nights. One winter, a fever keeps you down for 2 weeks, and someone else covers your route, and the city doesn't even register the change. That's the truth of it. You're necessary, but replaceable. Visible enough to be blamed when things go wrong, invisible enough to be forgotten when things go right. You walk your circles in the dark. You catch fires early and drag drunks home and stand between the sleeping city and whatever the darkness brings. Nobody thanks you. Nobody really sees you. The lantern burns low. You keep walking,